Hello and welcome back to All Things Real Time. Not a podcast, at least not a full episode. This week we're just going to run down some tips and tricks, some beginner guide stuff for newbies who might be joining us this weekend in the Stormgate beta. Hello Lorimbo, how are you?
Terrible, as always. As always, we are running down the high effort content train. We are truly, actually, unironically, this is the highest effort content we have ever done. It took us so long to fucking prepare this. But that was due to incompetence, not due to
That's true. Ineptitude, as always. Let's get straight into it. We've got a list of 10 plus 1 things that you're going to want to know about Stormgate. Here's number 1. This is how the ranking system works. It's a little bit different. People might not be used to it. The idea was to try and reduce ladder anxiety, basically. Right now I'm showing you on screen the top 10 leaderboard. Lorimbo, who is number 10? Who could that possibly be?
Don't worry about that. But I think that number 10 has a pretty good name. And you guys should definitely follow the suggestion.
Like this, you should definitely follow more. But you're noticing here that there's a points column, there's an MMR column, and the numbers are not the same. The idea with this system is that your points are hard capped at whatever your peak MMR was. So, for example, B, who's currently second, has an MMR of just over 2200, but his points is 2150. So he can get about 75 more points. But if he starts losing a lot, he won't lose points. You never lose points for a loss. You'll lose MMR. But your points will you'll continue to gain points until you hit the peak of your MMR. It's a bit confusing. I'm not sure quite how well the system will pan out. The idea, like I said, was to reduce ladder anxiety, where you're never really gaining, never gaining huge swings or losing huge swings of points, and your MMR is always what's used for your matchmaking. So it'll always try and match you around someone around your MMR, regardless of your point score, for example. I think that we're starting to get to the point, as you can see by the number of games played here, where the points and MMR are more or less converging. Lorimbo, any thoughts on that?
No, you pretty much explained it, but you can also see, for example, my account at number 10. That account has more points than MMR because its peak MMR is actually 2180 something. And then I tilted the fuck off and lost all of my MMR. But my points remain the same. So the idea is that if you achieve that really, really high rank and then you tilt the fuck off, your points stay the same, so it will allow your rank to be more or less consistent, and that's why it's based on max MMR.
So then it's a bit interesting because your MMR might be lower, so your MMR might be 100 lower than your maximum. When you start winning again, you'll start gaining points again, even though because your points are still also 100 MMR lower than your maximum.
Below the cap. As I will keep winning points. It will slow down though. When your MMR is very low compared to your points, your point gain will slow down. But you cannot lose points in any way. So once you reach a certain point status, once you reach, for example, Master 1 or Master 3 or whatever your desired rank is, it will be like that since like up to the end of the season.
Yeah, for sure. It's a little bit confusing. Post in the comments if you want anything more explained, and let us know what you think about the system in general. My prediction is that MMR is going to be the more widely used thing, and that's just because most people come from StarCraft, and once we had visible MMR in StarCraft, ladder points are still there as a system, but like no one really talks about them. We'll see how the system pans out. The next thing I want to talk about, let's get into some gameplay. This is Bob Overcharge. The most overpowered ability in the game, semi-joking. It's the first ability for Vanguard. You can see that by default it's bound to Control Q, and that's the little button for it at the top of the screen there. Basically what it does is you pop it on a command center. It gives all of your nearby workers 50% increased damage, 50 armor, and 50% increased construction speed for 45 seconds. Now, it's really helpful when you're in a panic, like your base is getting run by. You can overcharge and pull your workers to repair or to fight, because obviously they're going to do more damage and take less. Pretty good. But the main thing I wanted to say with this is, at the start of the game, you want to overcharge your workers and pull them to build your first base. And that's because you're not really going to need overcharge in that first kind of minute. There's not really anything anyone can do to you. maybe Celestials might be able to pull something. But generally, whatever you're building at the start of the game, if it's a Rax or if it's an expansion, you want to overcharge your bobs and send them straight down because it's going to increase your expansion speed so much. So this is a thing that all good Vanguard players do basically, and you'll see it in a lot of like the pro games. But that's why it's not because they are worried about taking loads of damage in the early game. Though if you're getting harassed by dogs, that's helpful too. But mostly it's because you can get really greedy. You can pull really late and still hit your timings just by using that 50% increased construction speed.
Yeah, this is also something that you should be doing not only in the early game, but overall of the course of an entire game. Balancing out which bob overcharges you use because something is attacking you, compared to the fact that you want to time. Pro players will time out their building times to bob overcharge. So if I have to make 3 extra racks because I need to go from 2 to 5, for example, or from 3 to 6, depending on the build, I will time it with a bob overcharge and I will make the 3 racks together. This is more efficient time-wise because you lose less mining once you pull the workers.
Yeah,
so
that's exactly right. There's one thing.
It's not
Percival,
super obvious.
Yeah, there's one thing I saw Percival do in his games against Bossa recently, which was he actually slow built his racks with 2 bobs, and that was like the time between overcharges. And that meant that when his next overcharge was up, he could power build the biokinetics lab with 4 bobs, so that the timings were basically the same as if he'd done that in a different order. So yeah, you can really use it to hit your macro and get really good efficiency out of all of your work.
There is quite a lot of exploration to be done here, like a lot of potential. But the important thing and the tip for actual beginners is don't forget to use this not only as a defensive tool, but also as a macro ability. It's really, really good. Way better than you think.
Cool. I don't mind who explains this next one, but we're going to talk about some of the map features that are a little bit interesting and a little bit different from StarCraft. So I'm happy to talk through this one. You can see on the top left picture, there's a Bob on his way to chop down a tree, and then you can see he did it. There's a little tree stump. It's so cute. The bottom right picture is a Magmadon who, a little bit less graciously, stomped through the kind of pillars in the middle of the map on Jagged Moor. The pillars and the trees are the same thing. They're just kind of reskins of the same kind of idea. And Stormgate, unlike StarCraft, which has destructible rocks. Hang on, I know what you're going to say.
Yeah, what I'm going to say.
Unlike in StarCraft, where there are destructible rocks, Stormgate uses trees as kind of path blockers. Lorimbo shouted at me because the jagged rocks in the middle of Jagged Moor actually have slightly more HP than regular trees.
A lot more.
I think it's like they take 4 or 5 hits.
17.
There's 17
hits? 17 hits per pillar, yes. We have tested this extensively. So while a normal tree only takes 1 or 2 hits, depending on the victory, a pillar in the middle of Jagged Moor will take 17 hits. So don't try this with workers. The Magmadon will the Magmadons is not the only unit, by the way, that can do that. Can do this. Cores from Celestial can do that too, similar to workers. Well, they are workers technically. Hellborns can hit trees, and the splash will also kill trees. Magmadon's abilities, the Vulcan charge ability can also do it. There are quite a bit of things. A lot of maps have either bases or camps that are inaccessible otherwise, unless you break trees.
So like obviously the middle of there's 2 maps actually with the middle, but Secluded Grove has like a really powerful middle base, but it's shut off by the trees. So it's like, you can sneak in there and expand in there early game, or you can Magmadon through and bust it down to like really open the map up and kind of get away out of the
Titan's Causeway has a camp in the middle that's also inaccessible. There are a lot of hidden pathway. Lost Hope, you can gain access to your opponent from the fort and then the main by cutting down trees. Be sure to pay attention to how the maps are confirmed, because they are definitely not like StarCraft. There is like quite a bit of tricks that you can pull thanks to the trees.
Yeah. The bottom left picture I wanted to include, if you're done with the tree talk.
Yeah.
Done with the tree talk. So the bottom left picture is a little healing flower, and you might see these around the map. I think it's not like super urgent for you to learn this if you're a beginning player, but knowing the locations of these can be really helpful because the healing flowers restore your unit's health. So if you've been in the opponent's base and taken a bit of poke damage on the dog, you can run to a healing flower and heal it up. So yeah, I think, probably don't like rush to memorize these things. Don't start studying, getting the flashcards out. But if you can kind of roughly remember where you saw a flower and head back to it to heal your units up, you can get a lot more kind of value in the early game out of your units.
Yeah, especially if you're using a Hexen or a Dog. I think for Celestial, this tip is slightly less important, but for those units, it matters a lot. The next slides that we have coming up show me making bases. Now, what's up with this, Lorimbo? Why did you show yourself making bases? Well, actually, there is a hidden mechanic in this game that you might not know about. This is quite important because if you fuck this up, you will lose quite a decent amount of economy. For reasons that I'm not gonna get not too much into, because that's pretty technical. Placing a base near a gold mine does not always grant the same income. Specifically, you want your base to be orthogonal, so either vertical or horizontal to the mine itself. So in picture 1 at the top and in picture 1 and the bottom left, that's how you should be doing. That's the correct way of putting a base. What you shouldn't be doing is the bottom right one, the diagonal. A diagonal base will lose on average 100 minerals per minute of mining. So a normal full saturated base will mine 620 minerals, but a diagonal one will only mine 520. So you will actually lose 16 or 15% of your mining just by putting it diagonal. This doesn't sound like a lot, but it's just, guys, just put it correctly. It's 15% more extra mining. It's quite good.
It's really
you
good.
know,
And I've seen people even at like really high levels that maybe don't know this and are still putting it like wherever they can get it, and it's really bad for your efficiency.
Yeah.
On some maps, it makes the placement slightly awkward. So yeah, have a think about where you want to put your base in terms of building walls or making it harder to snipe.
There's also a bit of
not diagonally.
There's also a bit of an argument to be with certain maps. Putting it diagonal will lose you the mineral income, but might be closer to a gas.
Mm-hmm.
So that will be the only exception to this rule, and that would be why sometimes you might see people putting them, especially as infernal, closer to gases. Well, this only matters as infernal because as Vanguard. It does matter as Vanguard. No, it does matter as Vanguard because you do need to put it horizontally still. Orthogonally, but you will never ever need to put it close to gas because you have this crappy. So make sure to put your base correct.
Next one, we're also talking about resources.
This is also. So another thing that might not be as obvious. I love economy. How does gas mining exactly work? I've been asked this quite a bit, even by players that are currently above 2K. I'm not kidding. Because the way that gas mining works is not as obvious as you might think. So unlike StarCraft or other games where resource collection is capped, gas collection, like mineral collection, like gold collection in Stormgate, is not capped. You can put as many workers as you can and they will mine with full efficiency. But there is a catch. The gas won't be there all from the start. It will start from a little hole and will slowly spawn gas minerals around the hole itself. As you can see from picture 1, in which this is a gas that has been working a bit after the start of the game. Your workers will mine the minerals and physically consume. You will be even between the rate at which you're mining the gas minerals and the rate at which you are spawning them with 5 workers and a half. So between 5 and 6. But I always recommend to put 1 worker extra, so up to 6 or 7. The reasoning being is that you actually want to slowly consume it. It will consume very slowly. We're talking it will take 20 plus minutes before it actually fully consumes it. If you let it go a bit at the start. At the start, you don't take the gas immediately. So you are to compensate that, you will need an extra worker. Another mechanic that the gas has is that if the gas is not being mined for quite a while, after reaching the max capacity of minerals around it, it will start making the minerals rich. The gas mineral. I call it mineral, but I don't know how else to call it. The gas mining thing.
Yeah, the gas rocks. Therium rocks.
The Therium rocks will get enriched. You can see that they're enriched by the fact that they are green. what happens is that your worker will automatically go, as you can see in the bottom right picture, on the rich gases, rich rocks. The rich rocks mine twice as fast as normal rocks. So actually, you can leave a gas alone for quite a while, and taking it later will result in double mining, at least at the start, until you consume the enriched part. So don't be afraid to experiment with gas timing. Taking gas later might actually net you more gas faster in the long run, depending on how you're expanding. It's not the most intuitive system, but it's not the least intuitive system either. Try it out for yourself, and you will see it. It works more or less as you might expect.
Yeah,
But you can put. This also allows you. Sorry to interrupt you. One last thing before I forget. This allows you in a pinch, especially on a gas that is enriched, so it's not like about to finish. You can put 20 workers to get, if you really need that gas, like immediately. It will mine it out very quickly, so it's not recommended to do this for a long period of times, but in a pinch you can absolutely do it, and it's more similar to how in Age of Empires 4 you might just put 30 on food and 30 on gold to have a fast, like, I need a castle transition right now.
yeah. Whereas, like, this is what I was going to say is, if you ever saw like 8 out of 3 on StarCraft, technically 5 of those workers aren't doing anything; they're completely AFK. In fact, even the third worker I think is slightly less efficient than the first 2.
Yes.
But, in
Yeah.
Stormgate, no such worry. As you can see on the bottom right picture, you can have 8 out of however many you like, and they're still mining really efficiently.
Yeah.
This
So
one,
the efficiency doesn't change at all.
yeah. The next one is getting away from economy a bit and more towards some kind of unit things that I wanted to highlight. This one's for my Vanguard girlies. The return to hangar button to recall your units. It's just a recall, but it kind of forces them to fly still across the map. So be a bit careful where you're flying. I see people sometimes will like recall a unit in the back of the opponent's base, and then it flies through like a million turrets and dies anyway. Basically, the way it works is whenever you like, you can click recall and they will fly quicker than they can fly normally back to the nearest hangar, as you can see there. And
It's talking about the return to hangar ability.
Return to hangar ability. It's bound to B.
Yeah.
I found B really nice because it's like B for back, but it's also like the recall button in League, so like it works. This is available on all of the Vanguard air units. Yes, even the carrier. It's not that quick, but it's on there. And you
Even
can see
the carriers.
what I've done on the top right picture is put a turret next to the hangar because the Bob in the healing turret will repair the Hornet even quicker. Basically, the way the ability works is the unit is locked there until it returns to full HP. But if it's already full HP, you can use it again straight away. You know, the Hornet can go back to flying around. You can't use the return to hangar ability again for another 60 seconds. To still be a bit careful in mind which units you're letting tank and which ones you're, trying to mind a little bit. They might be on full HP, but you can't get them out in a pinch. The bottom is a kind of a horribly cropped picture that you took, Lorimbo. And this is from the Harbinger, which is the dropship unit for the Infernal. And actually, when we were preparing for this video, we talked to some friends of ours who are all really good Infernal players, and they said, I forgot about the recall. So yeah, don't forget, this unit also has a recall, and it will take all of the units that are inside with it. It's a really strong ability and doesn't get enough use.
Yeah.
I think this one returns it. Does it return to the shrine or to the spire?
You have to click. No, you have to click it to a shrine, and it's not instant. But you can use the Doombringer immediately. There is no. It has a 120 seconds cooldown. It's also present on the XM, by the way.
Yeah, of course.
XMs also have recalls. This is specifically important in the early game, where your XM might get stuck in a bad position. You can recall it out quite tanky as a unit. This is really, really good on Doombringer because it allows you to drop, get on the back of the enemy base and recall. And unlike the return to hangar, which will make you fly through and then die anyway, this is an actual teleport, an actual recall. It will save your units. And very nice. Don't forget to use it.
Don't forget to use it. It's a really nice interaction where in StarCraft you might have had like a medevac get stuck behind an opponent's base and you're like, well, guess that's stuck there forever now. Not so in this game. You can get out. Cool.
Also, fun fact, I'm not gonna say which one. I'm not gonna say anything. But while we were getting the footage for this, we found something hilarious
we did.
About how certain interaction with the Doom beings. I'm not gonna say what. It's gonna be patched, but it's fucking hilarious.
Very funny. So this is one that I kind of threw in a bit on a whim, and I didn't realize there were upgrades on the scrapyard. So you can see this is a scrapyard that I built to mine some gas. They're actually upgrades for basically your bobs or your command center. So the first upgrade that you get is orbital cooldown energy regeneration by 50%. So this basically works like one of the energy camps. It's pretty strong. The other one increases the power of Bob Overcharge, which, like I said, is already a pretty good ability. And this is not a super expensive upgrade. It might be worth it if you're at these kind of higher levels and getting a lot of efficiency out of your Bob Overcharge upgrade. There's also a third upgrade that you get after unlocking the first one that I mentioned, which gives you another energy increase. So yeah, some interesting little tidbits that not a lot of people know about. There are hidden upgrades everywhere. There also used to be a bunch of infernal upgrades on the turrets. They were just kind of dumped there. Like cooldown abilities that are now on the top bar in the beta on the turret.
Yeah, it was like there are upgrades in weird places. Actually, fun enough, I can add something I just remembered. On the upgrade buildings for air units as Infernal, you also have the upgrade for Shroud radius.
Yeah.
Which will increase your shrine radius by 50%. I don't know why it's there specifically, but it is there. So if you want extra Shroud in your late game, the upgrade is actually in the hair building.
This tip was more just to say, like, keep an eye on what upgrades are where and give them a read and give them a try. Like, I don't think these any of these upgrades are like game breaking or going to be, you know, super impactful in your games, but nice to have, and they're not super expensive, so give it a go.
I will add even more. If you play Celestial, there are a lot of very good upgrades. I see way too many people not getting. So while I was doing this tidbit, we have now gone back to my place, talking about maps and economy. These are camps. So camps got reworked. There are like a million patch notes, but the patch notes don't tell you the full story. Only we tell you the truth about camps. So why did I choose to make camps? Is because their functioning right now is not as obvious, and many pro players, not good players, pro players don't fully understand how they work. Even casters don't fully understand how they work. So how do camps work? Camps spawn in different sides of the map. There are different camps that do different things. First off, very important thing, not every camp gives resource. Every camp has different amounts of resources that they will give. Some of them will give only Luminite, some of them will give Luminite and Therium. Some of them won't give you anything at all. Specifically, the health camp and the energy camp, which is not shown here. It's only present on certain maps. Those will not gain you any resource by actually killing the camps themselves. How a camp works is that you kill the monsters that are present in it. The monsters will scale up. The camps have levels, and you get a capture point kind of deal where you have to stand on the circle for a bit, 4 seconds specifically. The enemy can put units there once it's empty to recapture it and deny it from you and take it for himself. This is the thing that pro players don't know. Having a capture camp has 2 effects. One on the capture camp place, on the circle itself. The other one is global, and it scales off with level. As an example, if you are on the health camp, you will regenerate health very quick. But also, it gives you global health regeneration. I think it's 0.5% per second, something like that. It's not super quick, but it's fairly noticeable in big fights, especially in the early to mid game. So always make sure. Similarly, the speed camp will give you a little bit of speed. The vision camp will give units extra vision range, if I remember correctly. The energy camp will gain you energy. Now, the only exception are the resource camps and the siege. The resource camps, there is one in the gas in the bottom right picture, and there is another one for Luminate that is near. There are too many camps, we couldn't put all of them. They will just have the global effect. The circle itself does nothing. Just having it will give you Luminite and gas over time. These are very good for me to late games. I've won so many late games against other good players. We're talking about 2100 MMR because they did not realize how many resources you can get from these. If you come from Age of Empires, these are even better than relics and campsites and sacred sites. So controlling this in the mid game is crucial. The last camp that I will talk about is the siege camp, because I think it's the more unique one. So the siege camp is only present on certain maps. It's really strong. The monster is really strong, and will fuck you up if you have a small army.
Yep.
And
Has
what
a
it does
charge
is that
ability and AoE, so it's pretty terrifying.
it with one shots Gaunt. It can jump in the middle of your Gaunt ball and one shot half of it. It's kind of hilarious. So don't get jumped. He jumps. Split your army beforehand. If you kill him, you get access to a we used to call it catapult, but I guess the correct term would be now car, shown in the middle. This car is essentially an atlas, a neutral atlas that you cannot control but will fight for you. It will immediately, the moment it's activated, start running towards the enemy main base. You cannot stop it. You cannot do anything to prevent it. You have to fight alongside it, like chase, like follow it with your army to gain the effect. It's a pretty powerful unit. It's not too game defining. Like you won't, if you are ahead, you won't lose the game because of a random car camp. They have fixed that, fortunately. But it is quite impactful, and it can make it way harder for your opponents to play. So make sure once you feel like ahead, you want to have a push. If your map has a siege camp, make sure to take it. It will significantly help you on your quest. The last thing to do before I pass the ball to HaRT for any extra mention, I mentioned before, camps have levels. Once you kill them, they will gain a level, and they will gain both health, HP, armor, and damage on the camp itself, but also the bonus effect will be stronger. But the resource that they gave and the global effect. The only effect that won't scale up is the circle effect. So the heal will always stay the same, the speed up will always stay the same, and the vision range will always stay the same. But the actual global effect that I was talking about before, that one does scale with level, and in the late game it can be really, really impactful. Having level 3 or level 4 health camp plus level 3 shroud with the shroud, on shroud your unit will heal like something ridiculous, 10% per second. Insane amounts of healing. So it can be really, really powerful if you can stack the buffs correctly.
Yeah, I was just going to say these camps have some really interesting interactions in that they can give you veterancy on your Vanguard units, but also, nice segue, they can give you free fiends through the Infest mechanic that you're going to talk about.
Yeah. So Infest, I've decided to put it this because it's been a super controversial, frustrating mechanic. I think veterans is more obvious how it works. Infest is not as obvious. Even here, I have discounted quite a number of players at decent levels that do not know how Infest works exactly. The way Infest works is the following. Infest is a debuff that's applied by certain units. They go on with the upgrade being the most common one, but it can also be applied by the Dragon, for example, and by the top bar ability. It's a debuff that lasts either 8 or 10 seconds. I think 10, but someone said 8 and we couldn't fact check real quick. The debuff will deal 1% of the unit affected max HP in damage per second. So over the course of 10 seconds, you will deal 10% extra damage. But if you keep reapplying it, it will keep doing it. The infect damage does go through the special passive of Lancer nowadays. If a unit dies while being infected, it will spawn a single fiend for the player that applied the infect. This is important in Infernal Mirror. If there is a neutral unit, the first player that applied the infest will be the one getting the fiend. So if there's a unit like a camp and you both attack it with the infest, only the player that applied the infest first will get the fiend. Won't get both the fiends. There is no stacking of infest. Infest cannot be stacked. The last thing that's I think important, like most people will not realize that infest does damage over time. most people do know that Infest will give you a fiend. You can see the effect of Infest is a small greenish, brownish cloud. It's a bit hard to see.
Especially
You
if
have
you're
to like,
colorblind.
especially if you're colorblind. You have to squint a bit, but it can be useful to know if your opponent's is infesting stuff. If you have a dragon in your army, nearby infest of the dragon will instead spawn 2 fiends instead of 1.
Yeah,
It's
so
a
it's
niche
not
thing.
it's not infests caused by the dragon, but any infest that's in a radius of the dragon
Yeah,
will give you 2 fiends.
yeah, it
The-
will be like ultra infest.
Yeah, I would say there's 2 other things. Firstly, it's really important actually in against Vanguard, because sometimes you'll not realize that your units have been infested, and you'll walk away from a fight and suddenly, it really spirals and you haven't noticed, but your units actually are dying. So worth keeping an eye on. The other thing I will say is to prevent the kind of really weird fights where we just had like fiend swings back and forth. Fiends are immune to infest, and that's really important.
So are fellows.
Yep.
Fiends and fellows are immune. I completely forgot. Good catch, Art. Fiends and fellows are immune, and believe me, there are excellent reasons to why fiends and fellows are immune. So trust us on this one. It was for the better of the game that this was changed. Next mechanic. This is another talked about mechanics. I cannot believe how many times I've seen this question asked in Twitch. As I've even had questions. I've even had this asked to me directly from people in DM. Lorimbo, how does celestial energy? I'm not gonna go into how celestial as a whole race works, because that's even more complicated. But I will keep it short. Your energy spent by, you can think of celestials don't have supply. They have max cap supply from the start. Instead of supply, they have energy. Energy is not spent by units. It's spent by buildings and using ability. How does that work? You have a number. You start with 22 plus 22. You can think of it as 22 energy. Your energy is either green, yellow, or red, depending on how much you have compared to the total. So if you have 20 out of 200, that is still in yellow. Even though you are positive in energy, that will still put you in yellow. While red is 0% and below. You can actually go negative. There are ways I'll discuss about it. So energy doesn't actually prevent you from doing anything. Even being in red energy will only prevent you from casting the top bar ability. But you can still build buildings. But it will have debilitating effects. So yellow being the base, everything, once you're in yellow energy, everything will build at the speed that is clarified on the tool. If you are in green, everything will build 20% faster. But everything I include buildings. This applies for buildings, research, production, basically everything. I tested it on quite a bit of things, and I could not find something that wasn't produced more quicker, while in green energy. So 0% bonus at yellow, 20% bonus in green, minus 30% bonus if you are in red. So being in red won't prevent you from building more structures. So you can go technically as far as you can go as low as you want. I don't think there's a lower cap on it, but it will make building everything so painful you'd rather not want it. How do you get more energies? 2-way. More of this. I call it a battery. I always forget what it's called. I think it's called a prism or something,
isn't it?
Well, we'll call it a battery. I don't remember the technical name because I have always called it a battery. A battery will give you 10 energy. Is it 10? I hope to God it's 10. I think it's 10. I've even checked it, but I forgot. Building another arc ship will give you 40 energy. So that can be something interesting for the mid to late game. And as far as I know, those are the only 2 ways of gaining energy. Top bar ability also costs energy. The surge will cost energy, but you can remove it. Surge is the first ability and will be like basically a chrono boost. You put it in a building or to have extra effects. There are not always extra production speed. You can put it, for example, on your arc ship to make it go faster. or you can put it on the batteries to make them regenerate energy for nearby unit faster. You can toggle this on and off, basically. You can see that in the picture, the battery on the right is surged. You can see there's like a lightning animation around it. I don't know how to explain it, but it's you can see it from the picture. The other two abilities costs are permanent. Just lose 10 energy for the rest of the game. This is not as big of a deal as you might believe, so don't let this scare yourself from using them. And the last thing I wanted to address is how Overcharge specific works. Overcharge is the third ability that you see. Is the Prism ability that you can see in the right of the first three abilities, the right one. What is Overcharge and why is it important? Is it important because it's very frustrating to play against if you don't know how it works. Overcharge is an ability that costs 10 energy, does not have a cooldown, but has a charge system. A charge will take, I think, 80 seconds or 120, I can't remember exactly. You can stack up to 3 charges. Overcharge can be put on any building. It will last 30 seconds and will make the building shoot a laser that has quite decent damage and quite high range. So the two things that are not obvious, this can function through charge, said. So you can overcharge 3 buildings at once. Whether you want to defend 3 bases at once or you want to have one base very well defended, so up to 3 lasers that defend 1 base. Both of those can be done. Very often, if they're used sparingly, you will very often can use 4 or even 5 in a row, because by the time you have the first 3 overcharge are finished, that 90 seconds worth of overcharge, the fourth one, if I remember correctly, in 6 seconds, should already be up. And by the time you use the fourth one, you will be at 40 seconds out of 80. So you will be halfway through your 5th overcharge. This might be the reason why it feels like your opponent has overcharges. I think I went... last thing, overcharge can be upgraded. There is an upgrade for it that makes it do more damage. Specifically, that's 2 damage per second. I think it's on the just the main upgrade building, the one where you get if you have the upgrade, but I'm not 100% sure. Also remove it from you.
Also, it's too overpowered. We want Celestials nerfed. That's tip number 11, is go out there and have fun. Don't worry too much if you're not winning all your games yet. The game is needing a little bit of a tune-up. Lorimbo, for the first time maybe ever, is going to agree with me when I say that Vanguard is underpowered. Buff Vanguard.
Well, against Celestial.
Against Celestial, sure. I'll take that.
Bro, I'm not actually sure about the balance in Vanguard versus Infernal. I feel like Vanguard is really, really strong, but because of Celestial fucking up the ladder, it's been quite hard to actually accurately determine how good Vanguard is in Infernal. I have not even played a lot of against Vanguard because there are no Vanguards at the top level. So for a while now, Denver has figured some stuff out, so doing well.
We'll see.
So
that's it for our top 10 tips. Please like and subscribe, and we'll be back with more podcast content soon. Hope you enjoyed. If this gets a good enough views, enough likes, enough really nice comments that are very nice to us, we might do another one.
We'll do more low effort content where I don't scale. Look, I was calm for this whole game, even in the bonus tip. To be clear, I don't think you said specifically. The bonus tip is not only have fun, but also Celestial Imba nerf it. That's the bonus tip. So have fun, play whatever race you want, but if you play Celestial, feel a bit bad inside.